So many aspects of our lives have been disrupted over these last few weeks, and so many of the aspects of the experience of the community when we come together and we engage in certain things. And one of those was we had scheduled coming up in April, sometime in the month of April, we were going to have a communion service. And we have the ways we do that, and you come and you participate, and the bread is already there, and the juice is already there, and all the pieces are in place. But we can't do that right now. And we talked about this as a staff. We talked back and forth of different options that we had. And since this is a continuing event with our continued separation here, we didn't want to just skip and not participate in this most important service that is our physical way of, as it says, when you participate, you proclaim the Lord's death till he comes. And that's important. We need to do that. And just because we can't all be in the same room doesn't mean we can't do it. So we're just letting you know here ahead of time that coming up next Sabbath, it will be a communion service. And there are a few things that you're going to want to do to be ready in order to participate in that event. And we want to give you this heads up ahead of time. But one of the things you need to prepare is your heart for this experience.
When we think about communion, we think all the way back to that Last Supper. And Jesus, and I imagine all the disciples coming into the upper room. And the crazy part is, as a lot of you know, Jesus was about to die. And they're all fighting, and they're all arguing. And it reminds me of a lot of family dinners that I've had and experiences like that. But I know a lot of times we come to church, and we come in the same way that the disciples did. And just because we're in our homes doesn't mean that's really any different. We all have different things. Maybe between us and God, maybe between someone in our family, someone at this church, or someone farther out, that maybe are keeping us from being in that right place with Jesus, just like the disciples, to experience that foot washing that he did with them. I know I was talking with a friend the other day, and she said, man, last night I was up until like 2 a.m. and I was thinking about all the guys I've ever liked. I thought, wow, it was just really a time as where she's alone in a house by herself. We really have a time of introspection, and it's funny, but it's also serious, and it's a great opportunity to make things right and to maybe think through parts of our lives that may be broken and things that we want to give to Jesus, or maybe things that we want to give up that we've held against someone else or a way that they've hurt us. So thinking through what happened with communion right before Jesus washed his disciples' feet, and it was that act of humbling and being a servant. So in the next 2 weeks as we prepare, I just invite all of us to enter into that space with Jesus. I know I've been asking God, Lord, what is it in my life that is keeping me from going deeper with you? He's just been calling me to pursue him, to lean into him in a much deeper way, in a bigger way. It's easy to think, oh yeah, I'm pursuing you, Jesus, but what does that really look like? So what is Jesus calling you to do as we prepare for this very special service all together, to invite Jesus to wash our hearts clean and invite him to be a part of everything that we are? Is there something that needs to be made right? Is there something that needs to be given up between my heart and God, between your heart and God? But just going out from there, is there something in your family? Is there something in this church? Is there someone you need to call? So I just invite you to enter into that uncomfortable space. Perfect love casts out fear. So Jesus has got it. He's bigger than awkwardness. He's bigger than our egos. And ask him, what do you want to make right? Is there someone I need to call, Jesus? Is there someone I need to send a letter to, an email? And let's really take that time for that heart preparation. That really is a part of the foot washing service that Jesus did before I know Pastor Jeff is going to talk about the grape juice and the little cracker. But how could we actually do that ordinance of humility, as we call it, as Jesus came in with the disciples and he actually washed their feet? So if you're with your family, you can just get a little tub, a little basin of water and fill it up and wash each other's feet. If you are by yourself, or maybe you're with your family, but for whatever reason, one of you has to be in another room, or one of you works at the hospital, or whatever, you can still pray for each other. So if I'm by myself on that day, which I very likely will be, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call up someone else that I know and pray for each other and say, like, if it were Pastor Jeff, would you pray for me that Jesus would make my heart, that he would wash my heart clean, and then he would pray the same for me. So think of someone that you can call up, or if you are with people, go ahead and find a little tub that you can fill with water and wash each other's feet. So just go ahead and start thinking about that, and how else can we prepare?
So obviously we're going to need juice, and we're going to need some sort of bread, because the bread is representative of the body of Christ, and the juice is representative of the blood of the new covenant. So now, I don't want anybody to put themselves at risk to get this, and if you shouldn't be going anywhere, don't be going anywhere. But the reason we're telling you ahead of time is, in whatever way you're getting your groceries, if you can just add to that list grape juice and some kind of unleavened cracker. Now, it's not absolutely critical on that piece, and it's a little hard to know exactly how everything is. But let's try to the best of our ability to replicate this experience. It grew out of Passover, and key to Passover was the unleavened bread. And so we always have a bread that is an unleavened bread that is made for us. That means made without yeast. You can probably find a cracker. There's the matzo stuff, which you can get. There's wheat thins probably would work in this case. But look for something like that will approximate what we normally use when we're together, because to maintain that the way we do it helps us in a time like this to hang on to some measure of normalcy, even in the midst of this disruption. So however it is you're getting your groceries, if it's possible for you, again, don't put yourself at risk to do this, but grape juice and some sort of cracker that would be like something like what we normally use. I think that will help make this experience rich. Now, also the fact that we've got to think about this and we've got to plan ahead to make it happen, I think will contribute to making this a very rich experience. So that's why we're telling you now, so that you'll be ready when the time comes. And when we have the Sabbath, we'll walk through the elements like we normally would. So even though we're not in the same room, we can be participating together. So figure out how you want to do this week. Think it through. Talk it over with your family. And let's have a beautiful service, even though we can't be together.